All rise. Court in session. The Honorable Judge Free now presiding.
Please be seated.
The defense calls William Blake to the stand. Would you please state your name and expertise?
Yes, my name is William Blake. I'm a philosophical poet and engraver from the 1780s. My books include Jerusalem, Milton, poetical sketches, and a few others.
All right. How does being a philosophical poet maintain relevance to this trial?
From my day, a philosophical poet is roughly what you would call a modern psychologist.
All right. You previously stated your books. Could you elaborate on some of these?
Some of my books elaborate my ideas of religion, my anti-slavery, but one of my biggest ideas is what I call desire.
Could you further elaborate your last word?
The main idea of one of these is that if your emotions are strong enough, they will override your mind and you will act upon them before your reason has a chance to kick in. In other words, I feel, therefore I think.
How is this applicable to the boys on the island?
Well, the boys are their standard issues: food, water, shelter, fire, and those are stressful enough. But there are other things too. This is tropical island. It's hot. There are probably some sort of pests, and of course they're separated from their parents. It's very dramatic, and they create their own drama as well. The bees, the separation of the tribe. All this will weigh on their minds, and it'll cause their emotions to act before reason can take control.
And what do you believe would happen if the boys did not act on said emotions?
Two of my quotes: "He who desires but acts not breeds pestilence." Or more specifically, "I was angry with my friend, I told my wrath did end. I was angry with my foe, I told my wrath not, my wrath did grow." These mean that if you don't elaborate your discontent, if you hold back your desires, they'll weigh heavier and heavier on your mind until eventually they will have the power to override your reason. And this can be more dangerous considering that your emotions have now multiplied.
Would you say that Jack Maradu had plenty of stresses while on this deserted island?
Absolutely.
No further questions, Your Honor. So, which type of society are your studies based off of?
My studies are based off of any sort of society where there is a leader, and in most societies there are leaders.
But this was from in the 20th century, correct?
That is correct.
All right. Are you aware that the society that these boys were created in is much more similar to a hunter-gatherer society, which took place around 10,000 BC?
Yes, that is correct, but they still have leaders,
So do you
and it
believe?
is the leader's responsibility.
So what you're saying is that just for example, that Barack Obama should be held accountable for every murder that has occurred in the United States?
Objection, Your Honor. This is completely irrelevant to what we're talking about right now. Barack Obama is a completely different situation.
Overruled. I think that's an excellent question.
Yes, he is.
So you think that Barack Obama should be put in jail right now because of all the murders?
Objection, Your Honor. The attorney is telling the witness what to say. I know, but the attorney is.
He's your attorney. You
No,
can't have
I know,
both attorneys.
but the attorney.
Okay. Yeah, you can't instruct the witness what to say.
I was dealing with learning my throat.
Okay. So you believe that Barack Obama should be put in jail right now for all the murders that have been committed since he has been put in office?
No, I do not.
So then why should Jack be held accountable for the murders that occurred that are in no way directly related to him? Well, he was the leader.
Well, they are not in no way directed to him. We have already established that he had harsh feelings towards Piggy, and that he was using fear to manipulate the boys about the beast. So they are much more correlated than a random murder that happens
Are you
somewhere
aware?
in the United States.
Are you aware that Jack never ordered the boulder to be dropped on Piggy?
Yes, but after the boulder was dropped, he made a comment saying that's what you get, or something along those lines.
That was never clarified in any testimony.
Alright, that's fair enough, but I do believe it is in the book.
All right. No further questions, Your Honor.
Give a chance for redirect.
So, we already established that Barack Obama and Jack are completely two different things, and we are completely in two different situations, correct?
Yes, ruling or being a leader of a country is completely different from being a leader in a small community.
Very good. So, in your philosophy of a small community, which is what you're saying, do you believe that Jack is responsible
Yes, I
for the
do.
killings of Simon and Piggy?
Yes, I do believe.
And doing so, from the testimonies, is there anywhere stating that Jack called off the attack on the beast, that Jack was not aware of the boulder? Is there anywhere in the testimony that was true?
I have never heard that testimony.
Very good. So since President Barack Obama's situation is much different from the situation on the island, can we agree that those are two separate situations?
Yes.
So in this situation, we can agree that Jack was responsible, correct?
Yes.
But the leadership of Barack Obama is completely different, correct?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think we're ready.
The prosecution in this case has brought many reputable and respected witnesses to both ask and attempt to answer broad philosophical questions. Questions that have not fully been answered for hundreds of years. Hannah Arendt spoke about what is or isn't totalitarianism, claiming that any government without a constitution, like both Jack's and Ralph's, is a totalitarian government. Aldous Huxley and Viktor Frankl spoke about the responsibility of people living under regimes whose morals they know are wrong, and the fact that everyone under those regimes begin to act amorally and propagate that immoral behavior. Such is true for Roger when killing Piggy, and the boys on the island when they killed Simon. Natalie Angier said that human beings are naturally prone to cooperate, citing a study involving women rather than men, as was on the island, and monetary rewards rather than survival, as was also on the island. But what the prosecution has forgotten in this case is what they are truly trying to hold Jack accountable for, and that is the death of Piggy, the death of Simon, and the psychologically traumatic experiences of all the boys on the island, including Jack himself. On the first case, the death of Piggy. Both Ralph and Piggy claimed that they did not know how the boulder fell that killed Piggy, but that Jack was up there when it fell. Both boys also claimed that Jack was lower down on the cliff fighting Ralph as the boulder fell. As we know, Jack cannot be in two places, and it was Roger who dropped the boulder without any orders or requests from Jack. As John Piaget testified, those boys older than 11 years of age are capable of thinking abstractly and fully able to understand the consequences of their actions. Roger was older than 11 years of age and was fully aware of what would happen if he dropped the boulder. He did so anyway. Roger killed Piggy. Jack had nothing to do with it. On the second case, the death of Simon. In his testimony, Ralph claimed that Jack ordered his tribe to kill Simon, but evidence from the book proved otherwise, and Ralph agreed with the text. Later, Piggy also agreed with Ralph and stated that no one in the clan knew that Simon was not the beast. All this information was confirmed by Jack and Roger. Like in Piggy's death, John Piaget's research holds true here as well, as most of the boys on the island were older than 11 years of age and knew what they were doing when they killed Simon. Jack had nothing to do with killing Simon either. On the last case, the psychological trauma experienced by all the boys on the island. As was proved by Philip Zimbardo's famous Stanford prison experiment, when anyone, even law-abiding good citizens, are thrust into a violent situation, they conform to their environment. According to Herbert Spencer's testimony, societies, like organisms, evolve. When a society is reset with a couple of inexperienced boys on an island, the society becomes evolutionarily primitive. As shown by Steven Pinker, those societies that are more evolutionarily primitive are also more violent, as only 5% of males died in the 20th century, including World War I and II, compared to much higher percentages in previous centuries. As these witnesses also confirmed, being thrust into an evolutionarily primitive and violent society is a psychologically traumatic experience, and one person cannot be held accountable for that trauma. Although Philip Zimbardo became the de facto leader within his own experiment, he was not held accountable for the psychological trauma of all people in the study. The same must hold true with Jack and the island. Bad things happened on that island, but despite the questions and accusations that the prosecution has brought up, the only thing Jack was guilty of on this island was the act of participating in a primitive society and being an inexperienced leader at 12 years old in a time of turmoil. The prosecution has put forth no substantial evidence to find Jack guilty on any of these 3 specific charges for which he is here today. We encourage Your Honor to find Jack innocent on all charges, as we believe the facts show he is.